Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome into the video. So in this video, I'm going to be going over 3 stocks that I'm buying for the month of November of 2021, going over the thesis for each trade, the technical setup on it, and more. And a quick reminder, of course, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not advice. I'm sharing the moves that I'm making. It does not mean you should always have your own plan before going into any trade. Alright, so getting into last week's picks and how those performed. So first off, last week we talked about PayPal stock, ticker symbol PYPL, as an overreaction to the Pinterest deal. Now, there ended up being bad timing on this trade and not being able to be very actionable because as soon as Monday pre-market opened, there ended up being news that PayPal was not looking to acquire Pinterest. So the stock ended up popping to a high of 258 before selling back off. I personally had my trailing stop loss hit when this one couldn't hold above 250 to make sure to secure profits on that trade, but personally would be interested in a re-entry if it was to get back to that 225 level of key support. So still watching this one closely. Next up, we talked about Marimed, ticker symbol MNMD, as a reversal play and also potentially being in a hot sector. This one made a nice move last week, including Thursday, when this stock popped almost 10% in a span of 5 minutes, popping from 232 all the way hitting a high of 260. So that tells you a big buyer is interested in that stock. If it can break above that 258 to 260 range, we can see a run towards $3, which is my personal first target level for this trade. And then finally, we talked about Carnival Cruiselines, ticker symbol CCL. This one mostly consolidated this past week, bounced off that 21.3 level of support that we talked about, and is now curling back up and looks ready to break out of this wedge and downtrend pattern for a breakout and full reversal. I think we see a large move next week on this stock. Okay, so now getting into the stocks that I'm buying for November of 2021. The first stock is a stock that I've talked about recently, and that's Facebook stock, ticker symbol FB. Facebook stock, in my opinion, is just the easiest trade and the easiest money to make in the market right now. Just first off, taking a look at the historical chart, all dips, a lot like we're seeing right now, have gotten bought up, and Facebook always goes on to reach new highs. It is also bouncing off this range of support in the low 300s, setting up great for an extended reversal, and has some large gaps to fill on the way back up to 337 and 361, 2 levels that I'm personally targeting for this trade. And as we know and talk about on this channel, 90% of gaps fill. That's even a higher percentage on long-term uptrending charts with gaps to fill on the way back up. In my opinion, we see these gaps fill easily in the coming month as Facebook stock starts reversing. And Facebook also did report earnings this past week. So taking a look at those numbers, earnings and revenue were pretty much right in line with expectations. No big surprise there. But some big news that Facebook came out with is that they're adding $50 billion to the stock buyback program. So they're going to be buying back a little bit over 5% of shares outstanding, which is obviously going to help the stock price go up, help shareholders increase ownership in their stake in the company. And just overall, it shows that Facebook believes that their stock is undervalued. And the biggest Facebook news for the week was that they're changing their company name to Meta. So they're going to be investing heavily in the metaverse. And Zuckerberg said that he hopes within the next decade the metaverse will reach 1 billion people and host hundreds of billions of dollars of digital commerce. And the company said that it would spend about $10 billion over the next year developing the technologies required for building out this metaverse. So my take on this is I actually like it a lot for the company. Love him or hate him, Mark Zuckerberg is a genius, and this metaverse has the potential to be the next big thing. If any company is going to execute, Facebook is definitely in the top 3 of those companies who are going to be able to execute. Facebook or Meta, whatever you want to call him, this is going to attract some crazy talent to come work for the company. And they're definitely taking a risk here, but if this pays off, this could be seen as one of the best business pivots of all time if this actually does work out and does pay off, and they pave the way for the metaverse. So we'll see how that works out. In my opinion, Wall Street is going to become more and more bullish on this business pivot, and we're going to see a lot of money flowing into Facebook for months to come from here. So that's my take on Facebook stock, ticker symbol FB. This is currently my largest swing position, and like I said, I just think it's easy money for the reversal and ride back up, just like Facebook stock always does. So the next stock that I'm buying right now is Pinterest stock, ticker symbol PINS. Now this is a higher risk trade for the time being. It is a falling knife right now, but is getting to very attractive levels in my personal opinion, and I've started a position at these current prices. So just in the past week, Pinterest stock is down 23% after the fallout of no PayPal buyout. The stock is down 50% from highs down to a very attractive valuation, and just one that I believe is well worth the risk reward at these current prices. Now the reason why this trade is so risky right now is because they do have earnings this coming week on Thursday, November 4th, and it's of course always a gamble holding a trade through earnings, as we saw what happened with Twitter and Snapchat Snapchat this past week in the same social media space. And also another example, a trade that I was recently in, Protolabs, ticker symbol PRLB. The trade was setting up great until those earnings came out, and then the stock ended up dropping 15% plus. So holding a trade through earnings is of course always a gamble, something that I prefer not to do most of the time. I did add a starter position this past week in Pinterest stock, and I will be holding those shares through earnings for a midterm swing trade, a couple months or so, looking for this reversal to play out. I am prepared if Pinterest stock was to go down at earnings to buy more. A big reason why is because of their current valuation. So it currently trades for a stock price of $44.75. If we take next year's earnings projections, which is $1.39 of earnings per share, divide that share price by that EPS number, we come out and get a forward PE of 32, which is a really cheap forward price to earnings ratio, especially compared to the sector and comparing it to other growth companies. Very attractive valuation. They're expected to grow another 30% in revenue next year. And Pinterest is a company that has a lot of monetization growth on their platform to go. If we compare that Pinterest forward PE of 32 compared to Twitter stock, ticker symbol TWTR, we get a forward PE of 52. Also having slower growth of just 21% next year. And then Snapchat, another one in the sector. Snapchat currently has a forward PE of 83 even after that recent massive drop. And they do have a projected growth rate next year of 42%, which does give them that higher valuation. But still in comparison, growth and value ratios, Pinterest is a much better deal than those two others in the sector. And hey, who knows, Pinterest may be a part of the metaverse as well. So I'm a big fan of Pinterest stock at current valuation. The technical setup on it is very attractive as well. It is now sitting at the bottom of this channel, a trendline area that has acted as support each time that it's been tested. It completed the gap fill down to the low 46s, which has been my personal entry target for a while, and of course has a bunch of gaps to fill on the way back up if they were to report good earnings and see this reversal start to play out. A ton of upside there. And just overall right now, it feels like everybody is bearish on Pinterest stock. I'm personally a big fan of buying stocks on a discount when there's a bunch of fear around that company. That's where you can get the best value opportunity. And with their earnings this coming week, everybody's expecting them to miss. Everybody's expecting them to drop like Snapchat and Twitter did this past week. And just when everybody expects something in the market that seems not to play out, everybody's expecting a miss. If they just surprise a little bit to the upside, this stock could take off. And if they do miss earnings, that's pretty much already priced in my personal opinion. Could we see a 10% plus drop if they miss earnings? Of course we could, but in my opinion, most of the downsides are already priced in. And if they surprise anything to the upside, then this stock could take off. And for those who don't want to gamble on earnings, the best move would just be sit back, watch the stock, and wait to buy until after earnings results come out. Whether that's a drop in stock price or whether that's a jump in stock price, you would just avoid that volatility altogether. And it would probably be the smartest option for those risk adverse traders. Alright, so getting into the final stock I'm going to be talking about, this is Marimed, ticker symbol MRMD. So this is a cannabis company. I've talked about this company a couple times on the channel, but the stock has taken a recent dip. And at the current valuation, this may be one of the best opportunities at these prices in the entire market, in my personal opinion. So Marimed currently has a market cap of $250 million. And just taking a look at their previous earnings, these numbers are crazy for the market cap that they have. So they had a revenue of $32.6 million, which is up 239% year over year. And they reported net income, which is their pure profit, of $7.6 million. So if we take their last quarter's net income of $7.6 million, multiply that by 4, and you come out with a yearly net income of $30.4 million. Now to get that price to earnings ratio, we divide the market cap by that net income yearly number. So we get 250 million divided by 30.4, and you get a price to earnings number based on last quarter results. You get a price to earnings of about 8.2. Now the fact that a company that's growing over 200% year over year would have a price to earnings ratio in the 8s, that is insane, and that is a value if I've ever seen one. In my opinion, this is a no-brainer at current prices and just a laughable valuation. And a big reason why this stock trades so cheap is just the entire cannabis sector has been tanking non-stop for the past 6 months. And could that go on for a couple more months? Of course it could, but when this tide turns, we're going to see companies like Marimed and others that are trading for these crazy cheap valuations. We're going to see these stocks bounce like no other. A company that's growing 200% year over year in any other sector, you would see this trading for a price to earnings 30 to 50 at a minimum. This one is trading for 8, just a no-brainer at these levels in my opinion, if you're patient. This stock could definitely keep dropping in the short term with this sector, so this is a long-term play, 1 year plus, but when this tide turns for this stock and for the sector, you're going to see this stock be a multi-bagger easily in my personal opinion. So the company also announced that they're going to have their third quarter earnings on November 15th, which is about 2 weeks from now. When they reported their previous earnings, we saw the stock pop almost 30%, hitting a high of 114. So there's definitely a scenario where we could see that again when the stock finally gets some attention when they report those numbers once again. And they did raise their guidance last earnings, and a company is not going to raise guidance if they don't think they're going to hit those numbers. So in my opinion, Marimed's easily going to hit those guidance numbers and potentially beat once again. And it's not going to take much for more attention to come to this stock and this crazy cheap valuation for this to get recognized. And a quick look at the technical setup on it has support at 70 cents and 60 cents. Those are the two spots where I'm adding to if it gets there. And it's just a very easy buy anytime I see this stock at those prices. And once again, this stock is a long-term hold for me, not a quick flip. Just one that I'm adding shares to because it is so cheap right now. It wouldn't be irrational at all to see this stock trading for a price to earnings of 40, which would be a 5x from current prices. And for the growth rate that they're having would be more than fair. I think we see that valuation sort itself out within the next year or so and see the stock fly when the sector does turn around. So those are 3 stocks that I'm buying for the month of November. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope I've provided some value to you. If so, make sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button. It does help me out a ton, and I would greatly appreciate that. Also, if you're interested in joining the private Discord chat, that's the first link down in the description. You get alerts every time I buy and sell a stock. I answer any questions you have. You have full access to my portfolio, and you get a new watch list every single night for trade ideas for the next day. So that's the first link down in the description if you are interested. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Make sure to trade smart this upcoming week. I'll catch you next time. Let's get rich.